Hello, everybody. Dyer's back. So, welcome to this very, very impromptu stream. It's going to be a short one tonight, so don't expect this to last too long. But with me, as you can see tonight, is my special guest, Kate.
Hello.
So, Mike would be here, but as you can see, he's in the chat right now. But he's not feeling up to it tonight, so Kate has graciously offered to step in his place.
Yep. Hey,
So,
Mike.
what up, Mike? Anyway, so this is kind of a, I guess you could say more of a general stream right now. You know, a little bit of stuff going on here and there. Oh, say hey, Jay's here. And yes, this is a surprise. I didn't even
Hey,
know I was doing
welcome.
Yeah, I didn't even know I was doing it until earlier. But I figured, I haven't done this in so long. Kind of want to get back into the swing of things. And of
I
course,
hear that.
yeah. But that, of course, depends on how much streaming I end up doing in the future. So figure we'll give some people some time to get in here. Don't
Sounds
worry.
good.
Don't worry about it, Mike. You can't co-host on everything. So I'm just glad you're popping up in the chat at least. So let's see. Oh, thanks, Jay. So it has been, like I said, a while since I streamed anything. So, well, what have you been up to, Kate?
Um, I've just been busy with the podcast lately. Like editing episodes.
Oh, okay.
I've got a few episodes that I am hosting on that have been recorded but should be released sometime within the next month. So, people can look forward to those on the HD 101 podcast when the time is ready for them to launch.
Nice.
Just earlier today, we released an episode for Super Mario Run, and I hosted that. So that's something to check out if anyone's interested.
We may not, Mike. I don't know. Uh, it really all depends. Um, Super Mario Run. Keep in mind, I'm completely out of date.
Oh
So,
yeah, Super Mario Run is so it came out nearly a decade ago. It was a mobile spin-off of the Mario games released for iOS and Android around 2016, 2017.
is this
It's
one?
basically a Mario platformer in the form of an auto runner, kind
So,
of like Cannibalt.
is this when Nintendo was toying with the idea of doing cell phone stuff?
Yeah, it was one of their early experiments making a cell phone game.
Uh,
And another thing that's noteworthy about it is that a lot of the cell phone games that Nintendo has put out in the past several years have been free to play games. But Super Mario Run stands out in that, like, there's a demo, but you're expected to pay one time upfront for the full game, and that would be like 10 US dollars. And
hmm.
then after you pay that, you then own the game. You don't have to make any more purchases in it, so it's just a one-time purchase to own the game. It's kind of like a more
Interesting.
traditional game,
Yeah.
and it seems to sell okay, but like the profits of it don't quite match up with Nintendo's profits with Fire Emblem Heroes, which is a free-to-play gacha game. So that ended up being the more profitable thing for them in the long run.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't even see Nintendo doing that. It's like if it exists on a hardware they don't own, then it boggles my mind.
Yeah, it's still kind of surreal to think about.
Yeah.
Like, it's not exactly unprecedented since, as I'm sure you're aware, Nintendo released, or at least had other companies release games based on their early arcade games like Donkey Kong on the ColecoVision and whatnot.
Oh yeah,
It's just not something Nintendo has done in a while.
makes sense.
Yep.
Yeah, after all, back then they weren't exactly a hardware manufacturer either.
Yeah, that's true.
They did do a couple of like standalone games in Japan. I think they're. No, I think I'm
Oh yeah,
confused.
the color TV game thing.
Yeah, but not exactly something you can just slap onto a cartridge and sell.
Hmm.
It's probably
It
good
took
they.
some time.
Yeah,
Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, it's probably good they played it the way they did because what with the American market crash.
Yeah.
So
Um, the decisions they made ended up working out for them quite well in the long run.
yeah, I agree.
Hmm.
And so Mike says more like smell phone. Am I right? Well,
No, that would be Earthbound.
do you know what, Mike? Even though you're not in right now, hey, hey, Vinny, how you doing? Glad you could join us tonight. Oh, Mike.
Oh my
That's just
gosh.
wrong. Okay, I know I'm a virtual caveman, but I'm not that old. Just going to be 50 in a couple of days. Don't mean nothing.
Dang.
Hey, Snarb.
Hey everyone.
Yep. Welcome to my completely impromptu and unexpected stream for the night. Anyway, by the way, Kate, I do approve of your choice of avatars there.
Thank you.
Love the
The
Guardian Legend.
Guardian Legend is one of my favorite games on the NES.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Nice.
Hello, Snarb, again, all in caps. Oh, Mike was hoping we'd do the quack. You hear that? There you go, Mike. There's another one for you. All right, well,
Speaking of the soundboard, that reminds me that I have like 1 day left in my Nitro trial in Discord, so I actually have access to a bunch of sounds at the moment, as
oh,
it so happens.
you should totally use those whenever Mike says something.
Okay.
I haven't heard half of those, so
Here's a taste of what I can show off.
nice. Soundboard
Yeah,
speaking my language now.
totally.
Speaking my language, I do want to go into a little bit about the books because I don't think I've had a stream where I really talked about them since all the stuff for the Kickstarter that never happened. Yep, there ain't no Kickstarter and there never was. But
Yeah.
I got the books out there and they've been getting out to people. Haven't heard what anyone thinks of them yet, but there's 4 books. If people order all 4 books, it can take a while to get through them. If you are interested in purchasing copies for yourself, I left a link down in the video description. And for that matter, if you're only into, say, digital copies, by all means, just message me somewhere and I'll let you know how to do that for you. Oh, cool, Jay. I definitely want to see that. But yes, I am offering digital copies as well. Basically advertising it just here and there, but I do also have. I don't have any, but I am doing autograph copies as well. But I'm not offering any of those right now. I'd like to wait until after the first of the year. So, but if anyone wants to buy books, just look down. There you go. Physical copies, all 4 of them right there. So anyway, don't even worry about it, Jay. It's cool. But it's sold pretty well so far. I'll say that much. All of them have, and
That's awesome.
I'm glad people are finally getting able to read the stories that were included in Digital Archaeology. One of which Jay wrote. Also, if Eugene ends up coming in at some point, if he happens to see the stream, he wrote one too. And of course, Mike has like 5 or 6 in there. So, but there's plenty of good stuff in there. So hopefully you read it, you'll enjoy it. Maybe even. Oh, cool. Nice. You have to let me know what you think when you're done. Now, I will say this. depending on how this goes over, I might see fit to do a sequel to Digital Archaeology where more people write in with stories. But that's a future project. I already have 3 I'm working on for next year. One of which kind of leads into my next topic. Recently, Betty and I took a vacation. We haven't done that since we got married.
That's awesome.
Yep, we decided to go ahead and take a road trip up to New England. And along the way, we met Mike in person. It's funny. I've known Mike since like 2001, but we had never actually met in person until now.
Been a long time coming.
I'll say. But after that, we stopped in Connecticut, Massachusetts, Vermont, New Hampshire, visited family. They're in most of those states, and got to see some more opportunities for you, Mike. You should just keep it in mind. I'll make an announcement when I'm ready. But got to, in a way, this trip was actually kind of sobering in a way. I got to go back up to the property where I grew up, only to find out that the whole thing's changed. No one's living there at all, and it was kind of sad. And then I went back to the casino resort I used to work at, and that place has changed so much too. On the plus side, they have an arcade in there now. On the negative side, it's still a casino resort, so I've never been a fan of that kind of thing, even though I worked there. But it was a nice trip, and on the way back, we stopped in Leonardo, New Jersey, and visited the Quick Stop, the one from Clerks.
That's so cool.
Oh yeah, it was like being right there on an actual filming location. That was just kind of surreal, It's like,
I love that movie.
oh, I was going through with Betty, and I was like, okay, and this is the part where Dante was, fixing the light on the ladder when the old man came up to him. And here's where Jay was stealing stuff, and of course it looks exactly the way you've seen it. And if you saw Clerks 3, it basically looks exactly the same. It's obviously changed a little bit since the original movie. There's no RST video anymore, although you can get RST related stuff. So the video store as a video store is no longer there, but the building itself is. So yeah, it's like that's such a yes, I was indeed supposed to be there today. It was just one of those things, it's just such a it's a movie I actually got into a little late. I don't think I actually watched it until after Chasing Amy came out, and that was in '97. But I remember hearing the soundtrack back when it first came out, mainly because I noticed Alice in Chains was on it. But it was just something actually being there where they filmed all 3 of those movies and added scenes from other ones in the series. So pretty crazy. But yeah, they have merchandise there you can buy and whatnot. Pick my daughter up a shirt and so on and so forth. She was very jealous that I was there. She's a big fan of Kevin Smith movies too. But yeah, overall fun trip, though it's certainly taken us both a while to recover from that, because that was like a 3,000-mile round trip. By the end of that trip, I was ready just to be done, But then we were, and, so that's just how it went, and it was good. So, anyway, I'll stop rambling on about that.
I'm glad you got to go on the trip. 3,000 miles does sound like a long distance, though. You drove all that way?
We did.
Yeah, that's a lot.
I will tell you, the worst of it came, is the base took us 3 days to get there and 3 days to get back. The worst of it came on the second day, because once you hit, Mike's right, yes, it got me wrong originally from the EP Sap, the Alice in Chains song on the Clerks soundtrack. The worst part is up around Washington, D.C. and Baltimore. The traffic there is horrible.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. And then we were finally heading towards Pennsylvania, and we got stuck in another major traffic jam because there were like two wrecks within 2 miles of each other. Uh,
Yeah, that's brutal. Sorry to hear.
yeah, it was, and oh, poor Betty. She was in pain. She actually said once we got settled in Pennsylvania, right before we went out to meet Mike, that she wasn't sure if she could walk. Hello, Sharon. And yes, Snarb. Yeah, you never know when you might head out west for whatever reason.
Hey,
So,
Sharon.
yep. So, but yeah, all around, good trip.
I'm glad you were able to have that trip.
Yeah, considering the last one we basically took was our honeymoon.
Yeah, for sure.
So, anyway, why don't we talk some game stuff here?
Sounds good to me.
All right, well, hot topic right now is anyone who enjoyed the Ballast collections. Take it away, Kate.
Oh, yeah.
You can,
Um,
by all means, go ahead
okay.
and talk.
Okay.
Oh,
So, if anyone happens to not be aware, a company called Edia has announced the Ernest Evans collection, which will be coming just like the Valis collection, it's coming to Switch, but they also announced that it'll be coming to PS4 and PS5. So I think that's the first time one of their collections has been announced to come to those systems. And given the fact that the Valis collections recently started getting released on PC via Steam, I wouldn't be surprised if these also end up coming to Steam at some point in the future, though I don't think anything has been announced regarding that. But that's something that I expect may happen. And if any of you caught the El Viento trilogy stream that Rob and I and a couple others did a year or so ago, then you'll remember that that's like one of my favorite series of all time. So I'm definitely happy to know that they're going to be re-released in full. I'm kind of curious to know how the re-releases will turn out. One major thing that stands out to me when I think about Ernest Evans is that there's a cutscene in the game that happens to feature a newspaper that has Iron Maiden written on it.
I
So
remember
I'm
that.
wondering if that's going to be intact in the release that they're doing on modern platforms or if they'll edit that out.
Good question. And
Yeah,
Snarb, there's not only one Ballast collection, there's two of them.
there's three actually.
Well, there's a third. When did that happen?
Uh, I don't know. I haven't really been keeping track, but the third one has, I think it has Valis 3 on Genesis, as well as like some of the like old Japanese computer versions.
Did they ever put any of the either Super Ballast or Ballast 4 on, not the PC Engine version, but the Super NES version?
I think that might be in the third Valis collection. The PC Engine Valis 4 is in the second Valis collection.
Right. They needed to basically have it. If they were to do a complete Ballast collection, they'd have to obviously include the Famicom game, the Super Famicom game, the Super NES version, etc. And like you said, the Genesis Ballast 3, which was oddly absent from the first two.
Yeah, I know the Famicom Valis is one of the games included in, I think, the third collection, but I'm not 100% certain.
Well, Mike, since you just got it, can you fill us in?
Tell us.
Yes, we must know. I'm a Ballast fan going way back. And as long as they completely disavow any and all knowledge that Ballast Cross ever existed, I'll be fine. If I had a Switch, I'd probably pick them up, but for the most part, I can play all the originals anyway. So this is what happens when I, ever drive stuff.
I've never been super into Valis personally, but earlier this year I did happen to try out Valis 2 for the TurboGrafx CD,
Mm-hmm.
and I actually surprisingly had a good time with what I played of it. I didn't complete it, but I was having fun, so I do want to go back and finish that at some point.
Well, I can tell you, Valis 2 was definitely the first game on the Turbo CD.
Yeah.
Valis 3, it's much more like, say, Castlevania 3. And 4 is an odd duck. It's still worth playing, but it's definitely an odd duck.
Hmm.
And the last one they released was a complete reworking from the ground up of the original Valis.
Yeah. I know the release schedule is a little off there because of the order that each port and remake came out.
Yeah,
Kind of funny to think that there's like four different versions of Valis 1 depending on which platform you're looking at.
I know, right?
That game really got remade a lot back in the day.
Yeah,
And
the
people say that today is the remake culture age.
nope. The Mega Drive version of the original is a lot more like Valis 3. They definitely recycled some sprites, but overall, all right. So let's see. PC version of the first Valis, Famicom version of the same, MSX Valis 2, Genesis Valis 3, and the Super Famicom version of Super Valis. So yeah, that basically sounds like almost the entire thing.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised to hear that the Super Famicom version of Valis 4 is in there, since, if I'm not mistaken, I think Super Valis 4 is one of the games that's available in the Switch Online Super NES set that you can stream on the Switch.
Yeah, I think you're right.
So it's kind of cool to hear that it's available in another form that you can actually own.
Yeah, but yeah, Valis alone just has a very long, strange history. I'll just say that much.
Hmm.
I will say that was one of the game series my kids latched onto when they were growing up because it featured magical girls, and they were totally on board.
That's awesome.
Oh, in fact, I had three Valis plushies made some time ago, and uh, all my girls ended up basically picking which character they wanted to be. My oldest wanted to be Yuko, and my middle one wanted to be Valna, and my youngest wanted to be Chum. And I still have those plushies here. I'm actually holding on to them for them.
That's adorable.
Yeah, they're. I've got pictures somewhere too. In fact, if I recall correctly, I included pictures in Memoirs of a Virtual Caveman.
Nice.
Uh, Mike, you can't really skip the cutscenes, but there is a code where you can go ahead and watch all of them. And yeah, those were actually privately commissioned through someone that doesn't do them anymore, Snarb. Uh, Friend of mine calls herself Itanya. Yeah, I
That's
know that's
pretty
the
cool.
opposite. Hey, if you want to watch all of the PC Engine cutscenes, you can get that Valis Visual Collection. And there you go.
Wait, is that like a separate release?
Yeah, it's actually just contains all the cutscenes for 2, 3, and 4.
So that was on the PC Engine CD?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
It's
I
a
didn't know about that.
There's that, and also I think the Cosmic Fantasy Visual Collection too.
Oh, nice. I actually picked up the Cosmic Fantasy 1 and 2 collection on Switch earlier this year.
Oh,
I need to
nice.
get around to playing those.
Yeah. Let's see, but well, to circle back around to the Ernest Evans collection is what I think they're calling it.
Isn't it funny? Like, I know it's not the first time that people have called it the Ernest Evans series, but when you think about it, Ernest Evans is only playable in one of the three games.
Yeah.
So I guess people go with that because Ernest Evans is such a silly name that it stands out.
I mean, they could call it the Annette collection or the El Viento collection if they wanted to.
Yeah, I think those names suit it better, but oh well.
Yeah. All I know is that my opinion really hasn't changed much since we did that stream.
Yeah, it's basically one really good game and one silly, like bad in an affectionate game or affectionate way game, and one bad in a non-affectionate way game.
It had so much promise too.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. But
Goofy.
I've always hoped that they could maybe do like a fourth game someday that's hopefully along the lines of El Viento. So I have no idea if this collection would lead to that, but I
Well,
would certainly hope so.
you never know. And Mike has a goofy proposal. Ernest Evans is the Jack Burton of the trilogy. Just
Gosh,
get
it's been forever since I saw Big Trouble in Little China.
seems to me like
I
he's just
barely
getting
remember it.
he'd be getting by dumb luck basically. At least he's not
Perhaps,
driving a truck.
no, instead it's Annette who's driving the car and she ends up crashing it.
So we got Annette driving the Pork Chop Express and Ernest throwing knives into you know evil magical dudes' foreheads. I can't think of the guy's name. Lopon. Thank you, Mike. Well,
That
that's
would be
something
pretty fun.
that's something I didn't expect. This was going to turn into a how El Viento would become Big Trouble in Little China. Although on a side note, I've always thought that Vice Project Doom, if properly redone, would actually make a really good Big Trouble game.
I've not played that one, but I think at least one of those. That's a. Is that a Sunsoft game?
No, that was by Sammy.
Oh, okay. I see. Interesting.
That works though, Mike. Dante and Randall in space. Oh, but I'm just thinking. You know how I mentioned those NES quote unquote guy games to you earlier?
Yeah,
Yeah,
stuff like Shatterhand and whatnot.
yeah. Shatterhand, Kabuki Quantum Fighter, Batman. Uh, Vice Project Doom fits nicely into that slot as well.
Sounds pretty cool. I know that's one I want to check out at some point.
Yeah, Power Blade 2. And Power Blade
Oh
2.
yeah, I played through Power Blade like a year or so ago, and I really had a good time with that one. I need to get around to Power Blade 2 at some point. I really
Uh,
do. I think
hmm.
games that let you use a boomerang as a weapon are pretty good, just like Power Blade and also El Viento.
Well, you may not want to try Power Blazer, though.
Yeah, that uses a different attack, right?
No, still use the boomerang, but instead of having your, NES guy, it's like a short, fat little Mega Man kind of guy who can barely jump.
Oh, yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, I remember hearing about how that was retooled when released outside of Japan.
Oh, yeah, completely. And Low
Hmm.
G Man, I think, would actually count too, along with stuff like Dragon Fighter.
That's pretty cool.
But let's see. In fact, if you look at the background image there, it's like a good chunk of those also kind of qualify as like Holy Diver and Shadow of the Ninja.
Hmm.
Kickmaster, definitely. So there's a lot of good ones out there. And occasionally you get one that sucks.
Which one of these is Kickmaster again?
That's not represented on the background, but it's one of those games.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I
Yeah,
did try Kickmaster for a bit a few years back, and it seemed pretty neat.
I mean, if
Kind
you
of reminded. Go ahead.
oh no, you go ahead and finish first.
It kind of reminded me of Holy Diver, except I was having more fun with it than I did Holy Diver.
Well, Holy Diver was programmed by Satan, so.
Yeah, sounds accurate.
But if you look at all the characters on the screen, left to right, ignoring the neon ones up top in our avatars, you've got Upa, Arthur, the Metal Storm mech.
I love Metal Storm.
Metal Storm's a good game. And you got the dude from Holy Diver, who I can't think of off the top of my head what his name is.
Randy, maybe?
Yeah, you might be right. And Samus Aran, you've got Mark from Monster Party, you've got the dude from Shatterhand, Hayate and Cade from Shadow of the Ninja, of course Rick, because there was going to be some kind of Splatterhouse representation here somewhere,
Yeah.
and because he can fly, Bird.
I think the Shatterhand guy might be called Steve Herman.
Interesting. Yeah, if you go by the cover artwork, he looks like Al Bundy. Yeah, I think that Werewolf would actually count as one of those guy games too. Can't see why not. Kabuki Quantum Fighter also qualifies.
Oh yeah, and that's the where your portrait is from.
Yep. And technically, even the three neon characters there count too.
I do love myself some Contra and Ninja Gaiden.
Oh, yeah. And I've been a Castlevania fan since long before I discovered Splatterhouse.
Nice.
Oh, but let's see. Well, what else is out there? Okay, who here has heard of the Saru?
Oh yeah, I'm aware of it.
Well, I can now tell you from firsthand experience that it's actually pretty good.
Nice. That's the the cartridge that you can plug into the Saturn and use as sort of like a makeshift or not makeshift, but like an ODE that does not replace the actual disk drive, right?
Yeah, it's basically like an EverDrive for your Saturn. And I think the only reason they were able even to develop that is because the Saturn had a cartridge port for the expansion stuff.
Definitely convenient.
Oh, very much. Load times are pretty good, and it's played everything I've thrown at it so far.
So the compatibility is pretty good in your experience?
Yep. I mean, I haven't tried all the games I have on there, but
Right.
I am slowly going through everything. Uh, I've noticed one or two odd errors here and there. Like, for example, I loaded up the Snarb. That would be the Saru. It's spelled Saroo. I started the English language translation of Bulk Slash, and the music was all, weird. But I hit reset and restart it, and everything was fine. Same thing happened
I
with a couple.
see.
Yeah, same thing happened with a couple other games too. Like I tried to load Bug earlier, and went past the real time associates opening screen and all that, and then it just went black. I could hear the music, but no game. Hit reset and came right up. So, don't know what's up with that, but I'm sure they'll iron that out in a later firmware or whatnot.
Yeah, likely so. I don't know too much info about the hardware workings of the Saturn, but I remember hearing that the Saru, similar to something like Terra Onion's mode, it ends up re- it ends up emulating not just the disk drive, but it also essentially replaces or it substitutes itself in to replace some parts of the hardware itself, which might affect the quote unquote accuracy of how its games run.
Yeah,
But I mean, hard, like firmware updates should help that out in the future. But at any rate, it's not like a traditional ODE in that sense.
nope. Like I said, it's more like an EverDrive than anything else.
Hmm.
So, but I have tried at least one game that required extra memory, and that fired up just fine. That was Metal Slug. And
Nice.
Sharon, don't worry about it. You didn't know how it was spelled. You've never seen it. So, but
I'm glad to hear that it can handle games that require extra RAM.
yeah, so far it has. I need to test out a couple other ones, like some of the Capcom fighters.
Hmm.
That and there's, obviously I tried some of my all-time favorites, but a few of them I haven't tried yet, like uh, whatever name you want to call it, Galactic Attack, Layer Section. Uh,
Oh yeah, that game has like four names, doesn't it?
well, let's see, so Galactic Attack, Layer Section, think Ray
Rayforce?
Force, yeah, and haven't tried any multi-disc games yet, Star. So I'm gonna try one.
I
Gunlock,
do
that's the
not
other
have
one.
I do not have a Saru myself, but I do have a Fenrir ODE in my Saturn that I put in it like a year or two ago, and that's been pretty nice. I think it's been about a year since I played a Saturn game, but the last one that I did, like late last year, was Police Knots, and I had a really good time playing through that.
Now, fun fact: I actually have a Fenrir installed in my Saturn too,
Oh, nice.
but I have a unique Saturn because there's a little switch inside you can flip, and you can actually turn off the Fenrir and go back to just loading games off a disc.
Oh, I've heard of those.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you install the Fenrir inside of the port in the back of the system instead of in the disk drive area.
Yep,
Nice.
works just fine. I can boot games off the discs, off the Saru, and off the Fenrir. So I'm basically covered for Saturn no matter what.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Good to have options.
I do like having options, yes.
Hmm.
That's why, I've always made sure I have a way to play games in case something fails.
Yeah, I hear that.
So, like, if I lose a console, I've got emulation. Or
Yep.
an alternate version of that console. It just depends. But yeah, so far the Saru is pretty neat, and I recommend it to anyone who's interested.
I can definitely relate to a system breaking down since just about a month or so ago, I tested out my Super NES and found that it doesn't work anymore, which is a bummer.
I've gone through pardon me, two of those so far.
Darn.
One is the original one I got back in 1992 as a graduation gift, and the other one is the one I bought to replace that.
I see.
But I currently have a Super Famicom hooked up, and
So the Super Famicom still works?
yeah, that does still work. And
Awesome.
I have plans to have a few mods done to it. I know a guy, so gonna take that, have it recapped, and do a couple other mods sometime next year.
Sounds good.
Mm-hmm. On top of it, it's not all discolored like the U.S. Super NESs are.
Oh, nice. That's
Mm-hmm.
super cool.
But yeah, as much as I talk shit about the Super NES sometimes, I have to say it's a decent little system, and it's the libraries where I have the problem.
Yeah, I'm well aware.
Oh yeah.
I think there's at least like five or so games on the system that you enjoy.
Oh, there's more than that. But
Which ones are they again? Like the Konami games mostly?
you want a list? I've got a list. But let's
Sure,
see.
let's hear it.
All right. Well, let's see. Obviously, you've got Castlevania 4, Dracula X, Contra 3, Gradius 3, Axlay, Parodius Dog, Gokoju Parodius, the one I can't think of the actual name, but it's like Chatting Parodius. And then there's Super Ghouls and Ghosts and ActRaiser and Run Saber and even like the Street Fighter games for it.
That's cool.
And then you got like your Magic Sword and Jikyo Shibari Parodius. That's the one. Thank you. Batman Returns, Spider-Man Lethal Foes, Super Back to the Future Part 2, Macross Scrambled Valkyrie. Do I really need to go on?
Okay, that's actually way more games. I don't think I'd even heard of some of those before.
Most,
That's surprising to hear.
yeah, a good chunk of those are on the Super Famicom.
Nice.
Like Macross never made it out over here.
Hmm.
And what else is there? I'm actually thinking now. Of course, you got Super R-Type, R-Type 3. You've got Cotton 100%. There's the Kendo Rage games.
Oh, yeah. Kendo
And,
Rage is pretty cute.
oh, yeah. And then, let's see. Oh, hey, Palpuck. How you doing? Nomahara
Just
Colossus is
earlier
good.
this year, I picked up a copy of Modulo, and that got a English release recently, so I'm
Mm-hmm.
looking forward to playing through that.
Yep, that's another good one. I'm going to say Nosferatu as well. And, geez, there's actually a lot more than you might think. But
All right,
I think my
I
main
stand corrected.
I think my main problem is actually with those die-hard fans who never let the console wars die. Because they're all the ones who
Yeah,
are like, the Super NES is the greatest console of all time because of the Marios and the Zeldas and the RPGs. And it's like, dude,
just different tastes.
it's like, really, why are we still carrying on this playground console war from 30 years ago? We all won. It's like we got the best of everything.
Because they need something to fill the vacuum that is their very miserable lives.
I'll have them argue about the PS5 versus the Xbox, whatever the hell it is now, versus the Switch or something. You know?
The
I don't even know what the current Xbox is.
Xbox Series.
Yeah, Series S or Z or whatever it is.
Microsoft's system names are potentially or possibly even worse than Nintendo's system names can be, and that's really saying something.
I'll say.
I'm just, I never understand what Microsoft is thinking.
Uh, okay, I got to address some stuff in the chat right now.
Okay.
I may know that one you're talking about, Snarb. I just can't think of what it is off the top of my head. And I guess I do hang out in different circles than you, Mike. Sonic
I am
cultists.
well aware of what you're referring to, Mike. I know so many Sonic. I'll be courteous and say fans.
I'm just going to call him a smug blue bastard and leave it at that. And, wow, I must be out of date, Snarb, because I remember when everything was a Nintendo. Uh, I'm sorry you guys have to suffer with these Sonic cultists. It's like, nothing against that, but maybe play something else too besides just a, you know, brightly blue colored hedgehog who admittedly has a couple of entertaining enough movies. You know,
I mean, people play what they like playing, and
yeah.
they enjoy it, and I'm happy for them. It's just not my thing.
Well, it's like Sharon. She loves Awesome Possum and Bubsy, and that's great. She's entitled to love them.
Oh, Nita.
Hmm? Snarb, no one has changed my mind in over 30 years. You cannot do that. Hey, Techstark, how you doing?
Welcome.
So, yeah. Well, enough said about the Blue Rat. Except that I am going to go see Sonic 3. Admittedly, I'm kind of
So is
curious
the
as to.
movie actually good?
I don't know. It's not coming out for like another couple of weeks.
I haven't seen any of the Sonic movies myself.
Now, the first one and the second one, the first I thought was going to be a lot worse than it actually ended up turning out to be. It was entertaining. The
Okay,
second one was actually more entertaining when they introduced Tails and Knuckles into it.
that's cool.
And the third one, I've heard nothing but bad things about this Shadow character, so I'm curious as to if they're going to redeem him on screen or not.
I see.
Hmm.
Guess I'll have to find out.
Yep. But for someone who said he was retiring from movies after Sonic 2 came out, Jim Carrey sure is back for Sonic 3.
Yeah,
Wait a minute, Keanu Reeves is voicing Shadow? And
I
someone's
did hear about Keanu Reeves voicing him, yeah.
and someone was frustrated about this? It,
I don't really get why someone would be frustrated about that, but I do know that Keanu's voicing him.
it's like it's not like he's going to be there and he'll be like, "Whoa, I'm Shadow the Hedgehog, Esquire," you know, and he's not going to be all like, "Okay, now I'm going to do bullet time." Although the second one would probably be closer than the first one, because he'll probably play him like John Wick. Who knows? Which, sorry,
Maybe.
Mike, I still haven't seen.
Yeah, I've never seen John Wick either.
It's on my list. I can watch them. I just haven't yet.
I think the only recent movie that I've seen is the Super Mario Brothers movie, and I liked it a lot personally.
Oh, okay. Hey, Fatal Vision's here.
Welcome.
Give me 1 second here while you're doing that.
Okay. I do know that, like, I know the Super Mario movie got somewhat mixed impressions, but personally, it's the kind of movie that I was wanting to see since I was like a kid. Like, it's the perfect movie that I would have wanted to see for the Mario series rather than the live action movie that we got in the 90s. So I'm glad that the 3D animated one finally exists. Which reminds me that there's that 80s anime Mario movie that I still need to check out. I am curious to see how that one is in comparison.
I watched that whole thing. That is probably the most true to Mario movie you're ever going to see.
The new one or the 80s one?
The 80s one.
Okay. I do want to give that a try.
Uh, Definitely worth seeing. It's just, it is very much like a proto Mario kind of thing, because they basically just, they didn't have any future games to go off of. So basically
Sure.
just Super Mario Brothers. So they introduced a lot of other characters too that never made it out of that movie.
Makes sense. Kind of like how the Zelda cartoon, it only had like one or two games to base itself off of, so they had to improvise.
Uh, kind of, I think. Fatal Vision. We actually just started talking about game movies, so the anime features. If you want to go off on a tangent about game movies, we can.
I haven't actually seen that many game movies myself. We've just been kind of talking about a bunch of assorted topics, and we
Yeah.
happen to drift to video game movies.
I will say that one of the best ones I've ever seen was Street Fighter Two, the animated movie.
I have not seen that one, but I have heard people compliment it.
Yeah, and I've seen both versions too, the censored and the uncensored one.
Nice.
For those not in the know, that is the uncensored one. Basically, has a Chun Li shower scene in it. Nothing
Of
sexual,
course it
just
would.
yeah, it's just a shower scene. But
Sure.
that does lead into one of the best fights in that movie.
Nice.
Consider this, Mike. When I saw Street Fighter Two animated originally, I saw it on a bootleg tape from Japan. So, and that was courtesy of Andre. And then I saw the one that came out on video here in the U.S. shortly after that, and so yeah, yes,
That's
it
pretty
did.
awesome.
Yeah, and it had a decent soundtrack too. So, but yeah, that bit with Chun Li does lead into one of the best fights in the movie. KMFDM.
Okay, MFDM is in the soundtrack.
Yep, they are. And
Which track did they have?
oh, okay. Who remembers? I want to say it was something off of Nil.
Okay. I do like that album a lot. I've been getting into KMFDM over the past couple years, and it's not the kind of music I usually listen to, but I am having a good time with it. Oh yeah, Ultra's a great track.
It's funny. I put together a trip playlist when we went on our vacation, and I included Juke Joint Jezebel on there.
Nice.
And I start playing that, and Betty's just like, "What's this?" I'm like, "This is KMFDM." And she listens for it. And she's like, "Oh, this is pretty good."
That's awesome.
Uh,
Ultra was also used in, I think, manga videos, promotional trailer things that they would have at the start of their VHS tapes. Like, I recently watched the anime Ghost in the Shell OVA on VHS, and the advertisement that they had for other manga video stuff had KMFDM's Ultra playing over it, and that was pretty fun.
nice. And
Yeah,
yes, Fatal. You're right. I believe it was Them Bones was actually in on the in the movie. That's what I'm trying to say here. I think it's
nice.
actually when Ken's driving his car with what's her name. But yeah, yeah, when Ken was driving the Ferrari, exactly. And you know, Mike, I've forgotten about that. Honestly, the only thing I really remember from that soundtrack, besides like Napalm Death contribution and one or two other selected tracks, would have been Fear Factory's Zero Signal showing up on there. So I
That
remember
is one of their best songs, I think.
I named my personal website after that song.
Nice.
And that was not my first exposure to Fear Factory. I've been listening to them since Soul the New Machine. But I remember sitting in the theater with Andre watching this movie, and I was like, wait a minute, I know that song. I was like, holy shit, Zero Signal. So,
Yeah, it's always a nice feeling.
yeah, I was not prepared for that, but I wholeheartedly approved. Side note about that album, Demanufacture. My friend Chris had come home on leave when right after the album had been released, and he didn't even know about it. So I was like, "Oh, you got to check this out." And after that, kind of a joke thing, he's like, "Oh wow, he heard like the first song off the album, and I'm just trying to slide the CD under his shirt when he gets up, make like he's walking out. I'm like, put it back." He was just screwing me. He wasn't actually going to steal the CD. But I did
Yeah.
buy everyone on my Christmas list a copy of that album that year.
Oh, wow.
At least the ones who'd be into that music.
Hmm.
Yes, Sharon. And, wait, Fatal, you got to work with Mick Strawn? Really?
That's really cool.
Nice. Oh, I don't think I ever saw any of the Fatal Fury movies. I know I saw the Samurai Showdown movie, though. Nice. Friday the 13th Vengeance.
I'm not
Uh,
a huge fan of Dog Day Sunrise myself. Personally, I feel like the manufacturer's first half is mostly stronger than the second half, although the last couple tracks are good again.
I'll tell you, if you take Dog Day Sunrise out and just play the album itself, it's rock solid. Which I did on my iTunes. I made it a point to pull Dog Day Sunrise out and stick it on a B-sides compilation.
Yeah, fair.
Uh, I wouldn't count Golgo 13 since that existed before the games did. It started off as a manga, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I think that dates back to the 1960s.
Something like that.
Hmm.
I know the NES game Top Secret Episode was the first time I'd ever heard of it. But I remember also seeing The Professional. I actually saw a Japanese ad for it tacked onto the end of one of the bootleg anime tapes I had in high school.
The
And
Professional?
yeah, The Professional, Golgo 13.
Oh, right. I forgot that was the full name.
Yep, that was the first one, and the second one was I think Queen Bee.
Nice.
And yes, Mike, it was, but it was the style at the time.
The Go-Go 13 movie?
Yeah,
Knowing I've never seen Go-Go 13 or had any direct experience with it, but I'm aware that it can be a pretty uh gritty series.
oh yeah, it's the NES games are basically a very very watered down version of what you'd see in the manga and movies.
Hmm.
So yeah, like Mike said, oh wow, we've just been bouncing around everywhere.
Have you had time to play any new games lately or older games that are new to you?
Well, I haven't been doing a whole heck of a lot with a lot of stuff, but I have been pre-ordering a few things. Not gonna lie.
Do you
For
feel like sharing what those are?
I could. Uh,
Okay.
okay, well, you remember when Retrobit re-released all those Toe Plan games? Uh,
Oh, like Hellfire and whatnot?
yeah, there's I think Truxton, Hellfire, Zero Wing, and I think Fire Shark is the other one.
Mm-hmm.
That was something I skipped because it was just like, okay, well, hey, you know, kind of got most of these games as it is, so I don't really need a expensive re-release.
Yeah, that's fair.
Volume 2, on the other hand, I don't have most of those games, so I pre-ordered that. And
I
cause
actually remember hearing that there was some legal issue happening with that set. Did you hear about this?
I saw something about it, but I don't recall what exactly.
Yeah, they didn't really give that much detail about it. I know a friend of ours, Mercury, was
Mm-hmm.
theorizing that it had something to do with Slap Fight MD since Yuzo Koshiro did the music for that, but that's just like a guess. So we don't know for sure what it is with it.
Well, the way I see it, I'll either get my games or I'll get refunded. One of the two.
I sure hope that it works out in the end, since I do want to give Slap Fight MD a try.
Yeah, that's I've played it once or twice here and there on emulation, and I remember playing the original arcade game, Alcon. They called it over here.
Nice.
Very mid '80s shooter, but that MD edition, the special one that came packed in with that, is so much better.
So it's a very solid remake.
Oh yeah, and the Yuzo music adds to it.
Yeah, I bet. That's pretty cool.
Yep. So, Pop Puck, Mirai Ninja. That is a pretty good game. And the movie, I remember seeing that once, and uh, yeah, I remember seeing it once. That's about all I can say at the moment. But yeah, the practical
The
effects were
Silent
pretty
Hill
cool.
movie?
No, Mirai Ninja.
Oh, okay.
I think I played the game more than I've seen the movie, though. And I haven't really played the game all that much. And Silent Hill, that was, if we're talking about the original film, I enjoyed that. But it's been
I have
years since
not
I've seen
seen
it.
I haven't seen the Silent Hill movie, but I played through the first couple games a few years back and I liked them quite a bit. I
Mm.
think they're really fun.
I only played through the first one. So, anyway, as far as other stuff I pre ordered, let's see. Audacity Games finally is releasing the game that they originally announced was going to be the launch title for the company. Casey's Gold, which is like a sequel to Keystone Capers on the 2600.
Oh, neat.
So it's finally coming. I definitely ordered that.
So it's like an official sequel?
No, Activision still owns the rights to Keystone Capers.
Oh, so like a spiritual successor?
Yes, except done by the guy who designed Keystone Capers.
That's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. That's kind of like their other stuff. Circus Convoy was done by David Crane,
Hmm.
and what the hell's the name of the other one they did? It's basically, you remember Hero?
Oh, yeah, I love Hero. That's one of my favorites on the system.
Imagine Hero except it's in space,
Okay, that
and
sounds pretty promising.
it was done by the same person who did the original Hero. Yes, Hero is such a great game.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I'm always happy to hear about new homebrew work from the developers of the original games on the system.
Alien Abduction, that's the name of the game. Snarb, that's as close as you're going to get to an official Hero sequel.
I'm gonna have to look that up. Alien Abduction.
Yep, I don't think there's any ROMs out there for it, and the ones that are kind of tailored to the people who actually bought it. It's part of the special edition pack they do. I just bought the standard release when I bought that, and yeah,
Hmm.
that's for the 2600. But let's see what else I ordered. Pre-ordered, I should say, the new port of Bounty Bob Strikes Back for the 7800.
Nice.
And also, do you remember hearing about how Atari Age was bought out by Atari?
Oh, yeah, that is kind of unusual news. I'm not sure what to make of that still.
Well, basically, Atari Age is working with Atari now, since they're owned by them, obviously, to go
Right.
ahead and put games out and whatnot. And they've been recruiting homebrew programmers that have been doing this stuff for years. So the 7800 Plus is coming out soon,
Oh, yeah, I do know about that.
and one of the most popular homebrews to ever exist has actually become official. The game Bentley Bear's Crystal Quest. It,
Based on Crystal Castles?
yep, it's basically a sequel to Crystal Castles. It plays like Wonder Boy.
Oh, neat. That's pretty cool.
Well, it's going to be the pack-in with the 7800 Plus when it comes out.
So the 7800 Plus, is that software emulation?
Yeah, it is,
Okay.
and it actually has the most updated firmware, so you can play games like Pitfall 2 now, and
Oh, neat.
they're re-releasing several different homebrews that had come out, plus more re-releases of older games, and they're working on some new ones. Like Bounty Bob Strikes Back that never came out for anything for Atari, except possibly the 5200.
I
And
know Atari, or the version of Atari that exists today, has been making a lot of major decisions,
oh
like
yeah,
buying out companies such as Night Dive and whatnot.
mm-hmm.
And that's interesting to think about. I know like acquisitions in the game industry tend to not turn out well, but so far it seems like this has been working out okay. Remains to be seen how that'll work out in the future, but I sure hope that we'll get some good stuff out of that.
Well, one thing they did recently announce that's coming out with the release of the 700 Plus is the M Network collection. So
Oh,
all
I
of
think I remember hearing about this. Can
yeah,
you tell us what that is again?
all right. Basically, going way back here, the original console war, so to speak, was between Atari, Mattel, and Magnavox. So
Right.
it was the Atari 2600, or the VCS they called it back then, and the Intellivision and the Odyssey 2. Well,
Mm-hmm.
the Odyssey 2 was the Odyssey 2, and neither Atari or Mattel were afraid of it at all.
Right.
So it basically came down to the 2600 versus the Intellivision. And because of the way things were back then, Mattel actually ended up releasing several of their games for the 2600 under the M Network banner. And Atari got nothing from this. It all went straight to Mattel. And some of the ones they did a couple of Tron games. They did Burger Time, He-Man, and mainly ports of Intellivision games. Now, you're not going to see the
Like
license.
frogs and flies?
Exactly. So
Okay.
you're not going to see any of the licensed stuff coming out, but the stuff that was just ports of stuff from the Intellivision, that's what they're putting on this cartridge. And
That's really awesome.
I think Frogs and Flies is one of them.
It's definitely cool to hear about those versions getting re-released.
Oh yeah. And Snarb, you're right. Modern Atari really has pulled themselves out of the hole.
Mm-hmm.
Heck, earlier this year, I actually ended up getting one of those Atari 400 minis, and that is a neat little thing. Mainly because they can only include like 30 games, but and this was a selling point. You can add your own games via USB drive.
That's incredible. I love that.
So currently, I have a USB drive stuck into the port there, and I can play pretty much any 400, 800, XE, 5200 game I want.
I don't
So
have too much familiarity with Atari's computer lines, but have you played this game called Electrician?
I think I actually have played it briefly, but it's been a while.
Okay. I remember trying that a couple years back, and I found it pretty fun. kind of makes me think of stuff like Donkey Kong or whatnot, but with like a more expansive scope in terms of its design.
Right. I'll look and see if I have that one. What I
Hmm.
can tell you is that back in the mid '80s, a former friend of mine actually had an Atari 800, and I spent a lot of time playing the games they had, like BC's Quest for Tires and Pit Stop, and they also had Pitfall 2. And this is
Nice.
Pitfall 2. I'd already loved because of the 2600 version, but I played that one. I got through it, and that's when I found out that this was the Adventurers Edition because all of a sudden a door in the rock opened and Harry got shoved through it, and next thing you know, I'm in an entirely new set of caverns with
Yeah.
weird stuff that wasn't in the first set of caverns, like you know, fire ants and rabid bats and stuff. And I never did finish that. I can
Oh, you
now.
haven't finished that one?
No, technically I have kind of on using an emulator. Turns out
Right.
there's a setting you can actually toggle the collision detection on and off. So I basically use that to explore the other caverns and not get hit every time.
Okay.
But to actually go through it the way it was meant to be played, oh no, there's that second set of caverns is a challenge. I'll tell you that.
Well, that it exists, though,
Oh yeah.
definitely makes the version stand out.
In fact, if they decided to take the second set of caverns and actually release that eventually at some point as Pitfall 3, it would fit right in.
Nice. It's
It's
always really cool to find basically an entire sequel inside the same game.
pretty much. I doubt it would ever happen. If it hasn't happened in almost 40 years, it's probably not going to happen now. But that would be seriously cool.
Hmm.
Uh,
Speaking of, did you ever play that Pitfall 2 arcade game
oh,
that's
yes.
kind of like Pitfall 1 and 2 merged together?
Oh, yeah. In fact, I've got the SU-1000 port of it.
Oh, nice. That's awesome.
It is quite the unique little beast.
Yeah, I tried it out a bit, but I didn't get too far in it. But since like a couple years back, I finished Pitfall and the 2600, I do want to try out more of the games in this series at some point.
Well, I can basically guide you all the way up through the 16-bit era. After that, you're on your own.
Sounds good.
Yeah, well, it's pretty quick, too. You already played Pitfall.
Yeah.
Play any version of Pitfall 2 that you can. The Adventurers Edition if you want that extra challenge.
Hmm.
Then you skip Super Pitfall, and you go right to Pitfall the Mayan Adventure, and you're done.
Pitfall the Mayan Adventure is one that I've actually owned since I was a kid, but I always just played up to the point where you could unlock the original 2600 Pitfall, and then I just kept playing that and never actually finished the Mayan Adventure part.
Yeah, I've actually finished the Mayan Adventure, and it was a long time ago, but I did do it, and the ending is hilarious.
Oh, nice. That's pretty cool.
I won't spoil it, but the ending is hilarious, in my opinion.
I'll have to go back and give it another try then.
Oh, yeah, you'd probably blow right through it.
Maybe so.
And okay, yeah, now we're getting into the pitfalls I don't know all that much about. I did briefly play the one for the PlayStation, which I think had a voiceover by Bruce Campbell. After
Interesting.
after that, no, not really. Yeah, yes, Bruce Campbell did do the voiceover of Harry Jr. But there's actually a code where you can unlock the 2600 pitfall in the Mayan Adventure right from the title screen.
Yeah, I remember trying to do that as a kid, but I think at the time, this might not be the case today, but at the time I tried to enter the code that was listed on GameFAQs, but it just wasn't working. I
Uh,
wonder if they had put like the wrong code, or maybe the code was for like one of the ports and not the version that I was playing. So I don't know what was up with that.
that's possible. I know the Super NES version involves pressing the A button 26 times plus something else.
Oh wow.
But um, I'm not exactly going to call this a fun fact, but I will say, and because of this, I wish I still had my original cartridge, but it went in a great crash. Uh, Pitfall: The Mayan Adventure was the last video game that my mother ever bought me before she died.
I see.
I got it for Christmas '94, and she passed away mid '95. So that's why I wish I still had the original cartridge.
Yeah, that's understandable.
On the other hand, though, I do still have my original Castlevania, which that was the game where I'd given my parents a short list of games because they said they were going to buy me and my younger brother each a game, and I put on the list 1942, 1943, Castlevania, and Castlevania 2. To this day, I don't know why I included the Castlevanias. I'd never played them. When I initially saw the boxes in a video store, I thought they looked stupid. Blasphemy, I know. And I was interested in the 1940 games because shooters.
Hmm.
They came home with Castlevania. And my mother had been the one who had selected it because she, hey, wait a minute, Fatal Vision. Let me finish the story. Basically, uh, she liked how it looked. She liked classic horror kind of stuff. I mean,
Right.
I have a book that they had, which isn't their original book, but it's one I read a lot as a kid, called Mysterious New England. It's all about ghost stories and legends and stuff from the area.
That's cool.
Sharon, you might have, I don't know. But anyway, I saw the game. I remembered the box cover and was like, oh. And of course, my brother's like, I want to play my game. I want to play my game. I was in the middle of writing a letter, so I was like, yeah, sure, go ahead. So I put Castlevania down, put a stack of books on top of it, and went back to writing my letter. About an hour goes by, and I'm like, hey, I got a game. Huh. So I asked him if I could play it. He's like, well, I'm getting really far in this game. Oh, fine, whatever. So I went to go see Sharon. She had her Nintendo of her own. So I was like, can I borrow your Nintendo for a little bit? I want to try my new game. She wasn't using it at the time, so she told me okay. So I started playing it. Immediately, I'm just kind of like, hey, this looks good. Looks better than I thought. It sounds great. Ooh, plays
Oh,
really
yeah.
well. And yeah, by the time I got to the second stage, I was just like, okay, this is the greatest game I've ever played.
Nice.
So that's actually a condensed version of a story I featured in Virtual Caveman.
Good stuff.
Yep. Oh
You
boy.
never know what'll end up becoming a favorite of yours until you give it a try.
Oh, there's another one too. Uh, this, on the other hand, was based on previous experience. I remember
Okay.
going to a friend's house. They had a copy of Ghosts and Goblins they were borrowing from somebody. And I'm playing it. I'm like, oh my god, this is terrible. This is so bad. So, a few years go by, and I'm out with my friend Bromley. And Genesis had just come out. He wanted to buy a new game, and he saw Ghouls and Ghosts. And he's like, "Oh yeah, I've read so many good things about this. I'm picking this up." So I'm like, "Let me see." So I look at the back. It's like, wait a minute, this looks like that shitty Ghosts and Goblins game I played. Now, dude, you don't want this. You do not want this. He bought it anyway.
Yeah.
I never knew how delicious crow tasted until that day.
I mean, I can understand where you were coming from because the Ghosts and Goblins version on NES is an infamous Micronix port.
Oh yeah, you're not kidding about that. Of course, it took me years to find that out.
Sure.
So, anyway, anyone who's got copies of Memoirs of a Virtual Caveman, you'll be able to read all this for yourself. Except you'll get the full story, as it were.
Hmm.
So, anyway, we've been on for about an hour now. How are you feeling?
I'm doing pretty well.
Oh, that's good.
Yep.
So, And let's see. Well, as far as anything else I pre-ordered, I think that's about it. Sad thing is, I'm still waiting on games from the Atari Age Last Chance sale from 2023.
Oh, yeah. Uh-huh.
Well, I understand the problems that Al's had. You know, it's like first he got so many orders in a month, like basically a year's worth of orders in 1 month. And then the whole Atari buyout happened, which is what happened in the first place. He had to switch everything over, and he's had,
Right.
of course, your stuff. And as far as I know, he's in the middle of a cross country move right now. Although he says when he gets settled, he's going to have a distribution facility that'll actually go ahead and help him get the stuff out quicker. So I have my remaining games to look forward to next year.
I hope that works out.
Oh,
It
I'm
sounds
sure it
like
will.
a lot that's going on with regard to that.
Yeah, Al's never let me down, so
Nice.
I did get one of the games from the last chance orders that I made, and that was Wizard of War Arcade. Which, if you've never played that, that's a fun game.
I've heard the name Wizard of War, but I don't actually know if I have played that.
Uh,
Is that kind of like Warlords or
no, nothing like Warlords. Actually, it's it can be cooperative or competitive. You can actually play it both ways.
okay.
And what you're trying to do is you have one astronaut. You're exploring this maze in space. And you're trying to. It's a little like Berserk Snarb. Uh,
Oh,
yeah, like Pac-Man with a gun. And you kill all the enemies, and stronger ones come out, and eventually you face the wizard himself. Now, the cool thing was the arcade version talked. So for like 1981, this was major.
that's really cool.
Well, they have this neat little thing called the Atari Box, and I actually had that rigged up to my 700 right now because that was what came with my Wizard of War. So whenever I play the game, it actually spits out phrases from the arcade game.
Nice.
So it is very cool.
Yeah, I
Uh,
had no idea Wizard of War was like that. I'll have to give it a try.
oh yeah, you'll notice one thing if you're playing it in emulation. If you try the arcade game, it is not in stereo.
Okay.
So, but then again,
I
like
guess that's fair for the time.
exactly, I did actually find an original arcade cab just a couple of years ago. It was at one of the Free Play Florida events I went to,
Nice.
and I'd never seen that one in the wild ever until then. Thinking back on it, so many of those. Well, I only went two Free Play Floridas, but the amount of arcade games they had at each one that I'd never seen anywhere else was staggering. I mean, just off the top of my head, Food Fight,
I love Food Fight.
yeah, that's a good one. Tutankhamun, Bump and Jump, uh, and a bunch more. Plus, the first one I went to also had an MSX setup and Super Graphics,
That's so cool.
and I think an FM Towns as well. Or no, not FM Towns, the X68000.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yes, you bet your ass I had to go ahead and try every one of those too.
Yeah, totally.
I think actually both of them had a Vectrex setup.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
There
That
was
would be amazing to try as well.
there was a game store near me that actually had a Vectrex for sale for a while. I would have bought it if the damn thing wasn't $700.
I remember passing on a Vectrex like 10 or 15 years ago, back when it was like $300 or so. And
Mm,
compared to today, that would have been like a great deal.
yeah, and the one they had at the store was complete in box and everything. You think they even had a couple of games for it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Remember seeing one of those on, of all things, the TV show Charles in Charge way back when.
Interesting.
Uh, yeah, I think one of the kids on the show had one and would play it from time to time.
That's some product placement.
It was kind of like watching the early episodes of Silver Spoons, and Yes, Mike. But he wasn't the one playing the Vectrex.
Hmm.
Well, if you look at the old show Silver Spoons, everyone who was a kid at the time watching that show wanted to live in that house because they had an arcade game, or actually a whole like three or four arcade games right in the living room.
Welcome, Kyle.
Hey, Kyle, thanks for stopping in. Yeah, seeing that kind of stuff was like, why am I not rich so I can afford all this? But yeah, these things happen. $8.
Hmm. Speaking of Pac-Man with a gun, when I think of that combination, the first game that comes to mind for me is Jungler by Konami.
Oh yeah, I remember Jungler. Don't remember it
Yeah,
well, but I remember it.
it's basically Pac-Man with the gun, and also you happen to play as like a centipede.
It's like Pac-Man plus Centipede plus Wizard of War.
Perhaps so, yeah.
Uh, all right, Kate, you can give Mike another one of the soundboards I haven't heard yet, or the sound effects.
Okay.
Long story, Sharon. Devil World. That's a fun game.
I did try Devil World. You're talking about Nintendo's Devil World, right?
Mm-hmm.
I did try that out for a bit, and I did find it funny how the scrolling horizontally is smooth, but then the scrolling vertically is all chunky because of technical limitations.
Yeah, sure is a hell of a game though,
Yeah, for sure.
and no pun intended there. Oh yeah, yeah. Just thinking back on all the arcade games and stuff that I've seen over the years and played. Yeah, I can see that actually, Kyle. Yeah, that would make me hungry for eggs too because there are eggs in that game and ice cream
Yeah,
too. Speaking of which, when I was on vacation up in Vermont, stopped at a place that had this really good maple ice cream. It was like a soft serve. I'm not usually too big into maple stuff, but this stuff was good.
maple ice cream is a combination that I've never heard of, but I absolutely want to try it now that I know it exists.
Yes. There's a place up in Putney called Harlow's Sugar Shack where basically they sell nothing but maple everything.
That's cool.
You can get 100% authentic maple syrup there, maple candies, uh, yeah, bacon ice cream. God no. But that maple ice cream, I wish I could remember what they called it there though. Yeah, for a little store that's packed with all sorts of maple everything.
That's
Yeah.
really cool.
Well, Vermont is pretty close to Canada, so that makes sense. Uh, yeah. And on a side note, I also went to my childhood candy store while we were up in Massachusetts. That's a
Nice.
place called Nichols Candies. And yeah, so much good stuff in there for such a small building. Yeah, small building. They make pretty much everything right there except the stuff they have to, bring in. And yes, Vermont definitely likes its maple stuff. I've got pictures. Yeah, Nichols, good
Definitely
place.
sounds like something I would want to try if I ever get the chance to visit.
Absolutely. And the interesting thing is, Harlow's is right down the place from right down the road from another place we used to visit when I was a kid, Santa's Land.
Nice.
They were closed when we went there, so we didn't go in. But it's funny. There's also another Santa's place just one state over, Santa's Village up in near the top of New Hampshire. It's
Okay.
I wish I could remember the name of the town, but it's not coming to me at the moment. Jefferson. That's it.
Okay.
But yeah, so yeah, side note, maple ice cream is actually really good.
Yeah, I bet it would be.
I just had a small, cup of the stuff, and I was like, yeah, not really big into maple, but I'll give it a shot. And I was like, oh damn. So yeah, I'm hoping to be able to
Nice.
move there someday.
Hmm.
Yeah, but we'll see what happens. Anyway, okay, we were talking about Devil World, then we got off topic, went on to maple stuff, and
You're talking about games that you pre-ordered?
yeah, I think I listed all of them already. Actually, I'm still waiting on a Kickstarter from like 4 years ago now to finish. I know they run into their problems, so
I see.
that's Irina Genesis Metal Fury. It's another shooter. Big surprise. I do love my shooters.
They can be pretty fun.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So
I've actually played like a few different shooters over the past few months,
really,
and it's not like a genre that I usually go out of my way to play, but I just felt like playing through some of them.
mm-hmm.
One particular one that had taken me about a year to complete is Hellfire S for the PC Engine CD, and I ended up doing a 1cc of that, which I'm pretty happy about.
You 1cc'd Hellfire.
Hellfire S
Oh,
on the PC Engine CD. And
so
that's said to be the easiest version of the game.
okay. Because I know the Genesis one is hell.
I did do it on normal difficulty though. The
Hey,
the PC Engine version has easy and normal difficulty, and I did it on normal difficulty.
nice.
Thanks.
Fatal. Were you playing cue card games or CD games or both? So, and yes, we're all Shatterhand fans here, Kyle.
Yeah.
And
And then after, I think it was after Hellfire, either before or after Hellfire, I played through both Troubleshooter and Battlemania Daiginjo for the Genesis slash Mega Drive,
nice.
and I 1cc'd those as well. They're really, really fun.
Oh yeah, I remember. It's funny. I actually had a complete copy of Troubleshooter when I was younger, and
Nice.
I could not get into it. And it's like I want to like this. This is basically everything I want out of a game, but for some reason, it's just not clicking with me.
So that's how you felt at the time?
Yeah.
Did you ever get another try later on?
Oh yes, and
Okay.
it clicked. This is actually
That's cool to hear.
this has happened to me with a lot of Genesis games, though. It's like I remember
I see.
playing Granada way back when and going, yeah, it's all right. But then a couple of years ago, I started playing it. And it's like, oh damn, this is so good.
Hmm. I remember trying Granada like a year or so ago because Mercury is a big fan of Granada, and I also felt like it's okay, but maybe I'll give it another try and maybe it'll click with me then.
Yeah, some of the games that haven't clicked with me ever have been stuff like Comic Zone and Chikan and Kid Chameleon. Just don't like those games. Never have, probably never will.
I almost always hear people talk shit about Kid Chameleon.
Marge, is Lisa at Camp Granada? Uh, either way, Fatal Vision, though, you have certainly, you know, played some excellent games since you were playing, TurboGrafx shooters. Tell me you played Soldier Blade.
Soldier Blade is a game that I beat within the past couple years.
Nice. I have
I
yet to
did
be.
not 1cc that, but it was pretty fun.
That's probably my, not counting Splatterhouse and Ninja Spirit, probably my favorite Hue card game on the system. So
That's awesome.
uh, I like Superstar Soldier. That was another one way back when I played that. I was like, I'm just not feeling this for whatever reason. And yeah, Snarb, that's Kid Chameleon, all right.
I
But
do remember hearing it had an absurd number of stages in it.
mm-hmm. With you right there, Mike. And I've never even played the Bloody Swamp. But Superstar Soldier was another one that grew on me, and it was just like I remember buying that and going, yeah, it's I mean, to be fair, I was never a fan of Star Soldier, so I think I went into that with expectations a little colored.
Perhaps.
But I've actually Star Soldier's grown on me too. I kind of feel like a game like that needs to have some kind of a goal other than just points. If I want to play a shooter for points, I'll play like Galaga because we know that doesn't have an ending.
Yeah, I can understand that.
Yeah, Star
I
Soldier,
do like Galaga quite a bit.
oh, Galaga's awesome. In fact,
Hmm.
there's an unofficial 20th port that I'm waiting on as part of my last chance buys.
Oh yeah. I hope you get the chance to play that.
Oh, I'm sure I will. Like I said, Al has yet to let me down.
Yep.
But Galagon is what it's called. And it's proof that they could have done Galaga on the 2600.
They had an official release of Galaxian on the system, didn't they?
Yes, they did.
Okay.
And there was an official Galaga for the 7800 too. Except, that one plays fine and looks good, sounds good, but the ship looks all wrong.
Really?
Yeah, it doesn't have. It's almost featureless. I mean, it doesn't even have the red markings like the arcade. It looks nothing like the arcade ship.
Hmm.
It's like short
That's
and
odd.
rectangular.
Well, if it plays well, then that's probably the most important thing.
Oh yeah,
But
definitely.
that's kind of odd to hear that the ship looks so different.
Some people have taken it. Yeah. Sorry, I can't talk tonight. Some people have taken it upon themselves to go ahead and hack the sprite and make it look more like the arcade game, though.
That's cool.
Mm-hmm. But, yeah, we're just kind of going at random here. So, I did say we were just talking about whatever in this stream, and well, this is what we're talking about. Whatever.
We have delivered on the whatever.
Have we ever delivered on whatever?
Um, I haven't played that many games recently. I did play a couple. I think the most recent game that I finished, like a couple weeks ago or so, was Castlevania The Adventure for the Game Boy Color.
Oh, yeah. I think I remember you mentioning that somewhere.
Yeah, I played the Game Boy Color version specifically because it runs slightly faster than the Game Boy version. It's still a very slow, sloggy game to play, and it's definitely not good, but I am glad that I was able to beat it.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, which reminds me, Fatal. Sorry, the people I thought I could contact about what you were asking about actually had no idea how to do it. So, but it's awesome to hear that script is done. Can't wait to see that video.
Nice.
Uh, the last game I actually finished myself was the Haunted Castle remake.
Oh, yeah. That's part of why I wanted to play Castlevania The Adventure, because I want to play Castlevania The Adventure Rebirth, which, from my understanding, is basically like the spiritual predecessor to the Haunted Castle remake, since it's the first of the Castlevania remakes that M2 has done.
Yeah, pretty much. Although it's virtually nothing like the original game,
Yeah, I bet.
except for
But
those stupid eyeballs.
you would have to change a lot, I imagine, in order to make it a good game.
Yeah, but Starbright is really good. And Fatal, I know you were streaming one of them at one point that I recall. Where can we get these? Yeah,
I love Contra Rebirth. It's so much fun.
from what I played it, yes.
It's incredibly over the top, even by Contra standards.
War Machine's Discord has them, huh? Okay, I'll check that out.
Nice.
Uh,
Another game that I finished about a month ago that is probably not your kind of thing, Rob, but that I personally had a good time with is Brandish for the Super NES. It's one of Falcom's games that they put out in the 90s.
Ah, well,
And it's kind of an interesting genre hybrid of sorts. It's kind of like an overhead action RPG crossed with like the design of a grid-based dungeon crawler. And the way that it merges the two, I found pretty compelling. So I had a good time playing through it.
now
Very moody and atmospheric.
is it more of a traditional RPG or is it more like their action RPGs?
It's an action RPG, so everything moves in real time.
Hmm. I'd probably be more interested in something like that as opposed to say, I don't know, Breath of Fire. But
Perhaps.
I do like Falcom's work. I will say that much.
Yeah, yeah, I have no idea if it would work for you personally, since even as far as Falcom's games go, Brandish is pretty different from the norm. But I personally had a good time with it, and I am glad that I experienced it.
I actually have a translated version of East 4 for the PC Engine CD that I'm slowly working with from time to time.
Oh, nice. I love Dawn of Ys.
Yeah, it's been pretty good from what I played.
Glad
But
you're enjoying it.
most importantly, one of these days, I have to get back to Final Fantasy 2.
For the Famicom?
I'm sorry, that's right. Renaming, renumbering. Uh,
Oh, right.
Super NES, actually.
I
So
see.
I'm going by the original American naming.
Right. I actually played through that game, I think in 2019 or so. So it's one that I played through relatively recently. And it was definitely interesting. It was kind of funny for me because growing up, my family was into the Final Fantasy games, and we had Final Fantasy 1 for NES and
Hmm,
Final Fantasy quote unquote 3 for Super NES. And we also had Final Fantasy Mystic Quest for the Super NES.
I
So
remember
for the
that.
longest time, I thought that Mystic Quest was Final Fantasy 2 because I thought it was like a Mario 2 or a Zelda 2 kind of situation where they decided to switch things up for the second game. And
Makes
it
sense.
wasn't until years and years later that I realized that there was an actual quote unquote Final Fantasy 2 on the Super NES.
Hmm. So to put it in kind of a shooter comparison, it would be like Gradius, Life Force, Gradius 3.
Perhaps.
But
Like I didn't know any better as a kid.
yeah, Jay, I appreciate that. I still have it saved. The last place saved. I was posting on Instagram my updates. It's like Rob's Final Fantasy Quest. So whatever the last post I made on there was, that's exactly where I am. But
I
see,
hope you have a good time playing through the rest of it.
I have a score to settle with that game.
Oh, really? Do tell.
All right. Many years ago, I had borrowed Bromley's copy of the game,
Okay.
and I played it, and I actually did good. And keep in mind, this is back shortly after the Super NES launched.
Hmm.
So I'm playing it, and I got to the point where I made it to the moon. I'm getting close to reaching the last boss.
Nice.
He wants it back for whatever reason. Okay, I give it to him. There's enough room for save files on there for everybody. Well, my file wasn't erased to my knowledge. He sold it.
Oh, fuck.
Uh huh. He
Oh,
sold it,
no.
and all my progress went straight down the tubes. So I might as well erase it.
Yeah.
Ever since then, I have sworn that one day I will go back and finish that game. And
I
this is a quest that's like 3 years in the making right now, as far as my
mhm.
current save file.
I wish you luck.
Yeah,
I
thanks.
can actually relate. I have a somewhat similar story regarding a Final Fantasy game.
All
When I
right.
was a kid, my family got Final Fantasy VII for Windows 98.
Ah,
And I played decently far in it as a kid. I remember getting at least part way through disc 2, I think somewhere around the crater. So, like, relatively early in disc 2, but That's still like several hours of gameplay.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I was there, my dad decided, without letting anyone know, to reformat the computer for some reason. So I lost my save progress there. And
Ouch.
it wasn't until like a decade later that I finally worked up the drive to finally restart the game from scratch and finish it.
Well, I can tell you, there were many years I just basically forgot about Final Fantasy 2.
Hmm.
And every so often, it's like, I should really get another copy of that at some point and do that.
Yeah.
Why does no one ask anyone about what, Mike?
Please give us more info, Mike.
Yes, elaborate, please. Uh, let's see. Oh, no worries, Sharon. I have that taken care of.
Oh, reformatting computers.
Yeah, well, in Brawley's case, I understand it was his game. He could do what he wanted with it.
Yeah, perhaps.
Although, admittedly,
Or is.
wasn't the first time he'd done that to me either.
Oh, geez.
I was also working on Phantasy Star 2 right around the same time.
Oh,
His copy. I think I had made it up to the Nay first fight and gave it back to him, and then whoosh, it was gone.
that's a bummer.
Yeah, but hey, honestly, I'd rather go through Final Fantasy 2 than Fantasy Star 2 simply because of how damn hard Fantasy Star 2 is.
Yeah, Phantasy Star Two's dungeons or something else. I looked up maps of them online, and even when looking at the maps, it was really hard to play through.
It's like, I love the Fantasy Star games, even the black sheep of the series, which was three.
Hmm.
I'm not counting Fantasy Star Online or the Game Gear games or whatnot. I'm talking about the main four entries in the series.
Right.
If I could actually say I had a favorite RPG series, it would be Fantasy Star.
Hmm.
And I finished the first one, made it to the first fight in two, kind of just messed around with three, and got a little ways into four for a while. But, with so much out there and so much into other genres I'm far more interested in, they took a back seat.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. So four, four is definitely the best, but I do have a soft spot for one and two, especially one.
I've been meaning to go back and finish Phantasy Star 4 since I got a bit of a ways into it, but never actually beat it. So I would like to actually complete that at some point.
I like how they actually wrap up all the hanging threads from the previous games.
So I hear.
So I think they even mention what happened that resulted in Fantasy Star 3, which,
That's something I'll have to check out when I get around to it.
I said 3 was the black sheep of the series. I wasn't kidding. It's
Yeah,
very different.
I did try Phantasy Star 3 for a few hours, and even though I finished the first two games, I just went, yeah, that's enough for me, and I went on to Phantasy Star 4.
Yeah, honestly, they could have skipped Fantasy Star 3 altogether and just called 4 3, and it would have made more sense.
Perhaps.
But it was an interesting, experiment, if nothing else.
Yeah.
And I did like the generational factor in that. So I still remember the ads for it. You'd see a skeleton sitting there covered in, cobwebs and whatnot, and it's got a Genesis controller in its hands, and it says, "By the time you finish Fantasy Star 3, you'll get married, grow old, and die 4 times."
I know there were like some other RPGs that had a sort of generational mechanic going on. I don't remember the release dates of these, so I don't know what originated that, but I know there's also like Dragon Quest V, which had something similar. And then I think later on, Nintendo did something along those lines with Fire Emblem Genealogy of the Holy War. So I guess that was sort of a trend at one point.
Yeah, I think so. I don't know. The most I've gotten in generational stuff beyond that is like, okay, so you played Simon Belmont in the first two Castlevanias. Now in three, you're playing Trevor, his ancestor,
Yeah.
and then you're back to Simon in four, and they never did five, and so on and so forth, until the whole timeline just got really complex, and then they started spinning it off into other timelines and other storylines that aren't needed. Thank you, Mercury
Yeah.
Steam.
Decanonized games.
Yeah, we need to decanonize the entire Lords of Shadow series or throw it in a blender, one of the two. That's
I
just,
can't comment on those firsthand, but they don't seem appealing to me personally.
yeah, it's probably a pretty good reason for that. And yeah, I'm still mad 14 years later, Mike. I play Castlevania to kill supernatural beings and vampires, not to go on fetch quests and solve puzzles. And also play what's more like Lord of the Rings and Castlevania.
Yeah.
It's like the most Castlevania out of any other game that I played through that I saw was the very first stage where you're fighting against the werewolves in the rain. Oh yeah, that got sold real quick. Not
Understandable.
not gonna lie. It's like I'd almost rather play Castlevania Judgment. I'm just waiting for Mike's response to that.
Some of
Yes,
those Wii spin-offs were really weird to look at, like Castlevania getting a fighting game spin-off,
that's
and then Soul Calibur getting a spin-off that's not a fighting game.
Mike. You disappoint me. Kate, would you soundboard him, please?
Sure.
Yeah. Oh, that's okay. We're gonna have to wrap things up here soon because Betty will be going to bed soon. Fudge Mint. That sounds more like a Castlevania candy bar.
Oh my gosh.
Which reminds me, I will say another. I can't stop raving about this place. Okay, when I was in
Okay.
Connecticut, my friend Brenton took Betty and I out to a really fancy seafood restaurant, and the dessert I ordered was a slice of this chocolate cake, and oh my god, this thing was like eating a bar of fudge. It was incredible.
Nice.
And like Betty, she got the carrot cake they had there, which she said was some of the best carrot cake she'd ever had. He had a creme brulee, which I've never had, but
Oh, I love creme brulee.
he said it was good, really good. But oh god, that chocolate cake! I'd love another slice of that.
Nice.
Too bad it's thousands of miles away now. Oh well. But yes, Betty will be going to bed soon, so we're gonna wrap things up here soon.
Okay.
Uh, Castlevania Fudgement. uh, well, I don't know. You got anything else random you want to talk about?
Um, Honestly, for various reasons, I've been listening to a lot more music rather than playing video games as of late.
Ah,
Um, it's just I've really been in a music mood lately, and I've been checking out a lot of stuff, and I have been having a good time doing so.
very nice. I actually haven't been listening to a lot of music recently or playing a lot of games. I've actually kind of been binging Bob's Burgers.
Oh, I remember watching some of that a while back.
The one I watched earlier was called Burger Boss. It was about a video game. Like a weird kind of, side scrolling burger time kind of thing where you play it. In fact, it's almost like Panic Restaurant in a way. I didn't know you were
That's
a Bob's
cool.
Burgers fan, Mike. But having just, I mean, I got into it. We saw a couple episodes while we were at the hotel, and it was just like, okay, this is actually really funny. And Louise is the one with the rabbit ears, right?
I think so.
Huh.
Been several years since I watched Bob's Burgers.
Well, Tina's the one with the glasses. Gene's the boy. So yeah, Louise would be the Louise is the best.
Yeah,
She is the absolute best.
yeah.
And
I think I watched as far as like season 4 or so.
and I know they did a crossover with a show on Archer.
Oh, yeah. I think the same guy voices the main character in both Bob's Burgers and Archer.
Yeah, it's H. John Benjamin.
Yeah,
And yes, that is actually Kristen Shaw. How do you pronounce her name? I don't even know. Shaw,
I
something.
assume so.
But yes, that is actually her actual voice.
That's cool.
But yeah, good stuff. So I'm up in I think a couple episodes of the season 2 now.
Nice.
Yep, that's right. H. John Benjamin did Coach McGurk in home movies. Also showed up in a few episodes of Aqua Teen Hunger Force. He was Moth
I
Monster
did.
Man.
I watched through season 1 of Home Movies earlier this year, and I had a good time doing so.
And if you've ever seen the episode of Aqua Teen Hunger Force with the moth guy, that's Moth Monster Man, and he does the voice of him too.
That's pretty cool.
I was like, yeah, why did you throw molding at me? Bus of the Undead, that's the name of the episode.
I've never seen Aqua Teen Hunger Force myself, but I've heard a little bit about the history behind that show, and it seems pretty amazing.
Well, I can tell you, I started watching it at a very low point in my life, and it was probably one of the funny things I had to keep me going at the time.
That's good to hear.
Yeah, it just, especially that Bus of the Undead episode, that just got me. Master Shake saying that the bus parked outside their house is actually a vampire bus lubricated with 10W blood. He's like, I will drive. He basically pulls off a piece of, the door frame. And he's like,
Right.
I will drive a stake deep into the heart of the crankcase of the vampire bus. Goes out, throws the thing at the bus. Of course, it bounces off. He runs back inside. He gets a phone call. Yeah, why did you throw molding at me? Let's see. Yeah, Aqua Teen Hunger Force, after the movie, I kind of lost track.
I see.
That is interesting. Dana Snyder's in the shows you watch these days. Huh. Although I will say, as far as current animated comedies go, I'm very much into Star Trek Lower Decks. That's just one of the best Star Trek shows I've ever seen, period.
I've been hearing people say they really like it.
Oh, yeah.
I've not seen it myself.
They're basically in the middle of the last season right now.
Oh, that's cool.
But no, I wanted more. But
Well,
they're saying that we may not be seeing the end of these characters, though.
maybe that's promising then.
Yeah. But it's, if you know anything about Star Trek, they make some of the most obscure in jokes. Right, Mike?
Nice.
Mike knows what I'm talking about here.
Oh,
Oh, you know. And yes, we did. But yeah, that's what Mike McMahon's been saying. They may, he still wants to do stuff with these characters, so they may pop up again.
it would be cool to see.
uh, I'll just say Ronald Moore. Uh, yes. But no, that whole see, he knows exactly what I'm saying. kind of in
I really
territory there.
haven't watched that much in general over the past year or over the past several years.
Hmm.
I just, for the most part, I don't tend to watch a lot of TV or movies or whatnot.
Uh,
I think the main thing that I got into over the past year, as far as that goes, is Lupin the Third, which
ah,
for a few months I was watching with a group of friends, and we saw a bunch of the TV specials and some of the movies, and that was pretty fun.
I still have to watch Castle Cagliostro.
That's one of my favorite movies. I love it.
I can watch it. I just haven't yet for some reason. Probably for the same reason I haven't
Well,
watched John Wick. You guys keep forgetting about it.
if you get around to it, I hope you enjoy it.
Cool. Well, I've liked pretty much everything else they've done, so I can't see why not.
Nice.
Yeah, I know it's strange, Mike. I have not seen it yet. I don't know why. That's really all I can say, though.
I mean,
Anyway,
I hadn't seen it either until just earlier this year, so it happens.
yeah, it's on my list. Which every time I say it's getting shorter, more movies get added to it. So I just saw the Adventures of Baron Munchausen for the first time. So
Not familiar with that one.
it was a Terry Gilliam film. However you pronounce his last name. It's like the same guy
Okay.
that you know as Monty Python.
Harry Gilliam?
Yeah, Terry. He was
Okay.
the same guy that did what was it, Time Bandits and Brazil.
I do not know either of those.
Not even Time Bandits, really. Hmm.
Nope.
Well, basically, it's like those three movies kind of form a loose trilogy, although the movies themselves are not connected. It's basically like Time Bandits is like, seeing through the eyes of a child. Brazil is through a middle aged person in their 30s. And Munchausen is basically like old man kind of thing.
Okay.
So,
So they're like loosely connected, kind of like the Cornetto trilogy.
exactly.
Okay, I see.
So, but I remember not being overly thrilled with Time Bandits when I saw it. It was a decent enough movie, but it wasn't one I felt like I needed to own or anything. And I still haven't seen Brazil. But
All right.
Munchausen was pretty good. Uh,
Glad you liked it.
it was fun. A fun watch, definitely.
Hooray.
All right. Anyway, yeah, Bay will be coming in here soon to go to bed, so I think we should go ahead and wrap this up for tonight.
Okay. Thanks for inviting me on.
Oh, no
Been fun.
problem. Yeah, it's nice to have you here. As one of the very. We've only had a couple of special guests on Dyer's Place before, so and now you have your own avatar, so you might be back
Yeah.
again.
Yeah,
Uh,
I think the last time I was on a stream was it the Ninja Gaiden roundtable?
might have been, yeah.
Yeah.
But I can tell you this: the rate things are doing right now. I said this at the top of the stream. Uh, I don't know what I'm going to be doing for streaming in the future. Uh, I may abandon the roundtable concept completely.
Oh, really?
It's a
Okay.
possibility. I haven't made a decision yet.
Okay.
Uh, I might just put everything under the Dyer's Place banner and just have informal discussions like this, which is basically just we'd essentially still be doing roundtables, but we wouldn't have all the themed graphics and all that other stuff.
Okay.
But we'll see how that plays out. First, first things first. I got books to write.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yep, and if anyone wants to check out what I have written, link is in the video description. All four books. And if you're interested
Good
in
stuff.
buying, yes, if you're interested in buying digital copies, get a hold of me. So if you're not in the Discord, you know where to find me. I'm on Blue Sky. You can always contact me via my the Books of Rob Strangman page on Facebook. And there's one or two other ways. You can always get me at the West Mansion site the submissions email there too. So, but yeah, just let me know. And thanks, Jack. I appreciate that. And I'm glad we could cheer you up a little bit, Mike.
Feel better, Mike.
Yes. So, with that, shall bid you all have a fun.
Have a good one, everyone. Thanks for tuning in.